What's up, viewers, subscribers, and agents alike? It's your boy Enlightened Luciferian Prince, and I'm coming at you today, this morning, with a very important message. Yes, I switched my camera angle because I'm looking down on you agents. How does it look from down there? Bitch. Saturday, you should be asleep. Business hours is closed for you. And to the serious subscribers and to the people who really want a little bit more understanding on what I'm getting ready to deal with, you better hang on and you better hold tight. Because informatively and transformatively, get the fuck out of here, I'm going to let you know that what the truth is behind what the SF-181 is and what the definition is in regards to your status. Now, before I proceed, let me take a sip of water because this is going to get live. Now, show you an image. I want to show you something. I keep it inside my archives, and I highlighted it for a reason. Take a close look. Take a good look. See that? See that right there? That's Pope Benedict, so-called, anyway, 16. And Pope Francis the First. Look at that image right there at the top. You know? Worshipping before what they call, let me back up, Black Madonna. That's inappropriate. That's Nimrod and Semiramis. Now we're going to wrap a whole bunch of things and, make sure I wrote on here. It's Pope John Paul, so-called anyway. Wait a second. Let's look at the color of that image. Let's zoom in on that. Yeah. Now you might be asking, why am I showing you this? Why am I showing you this? Why am I showing you images of the Pope worshiping for the image of Nimrod and Semiramis? Well, people, it's because you have left your original station. Your original station was supposed to be for your own purpose. Let me get the glare out of the way. I'm sorry, people. It's your own purpose. It's supposed to be for your realization as to who you are and what your own personal appellation is in regards to your status. Now, the Form 181 is the purpose to be recognized by the Social Security Administration, my previous video, as to who you are and to who you are not. Now, a lot of people, they're like, well, what does this all tie into? It ties into who you really are supposed to be. See, in this country, when we call ourselves black, we have to realize that, especially with this whole these incidents that happen spontaneously with people that call themselves black, or people that are called black by the media have allowed it to take in place, is because legally they haven't really had themselves recognized by law in proper standing. See, black means you have no standing in law. And I think one of the most fundamental cases was the Dred Scott case of, what was it, 1875, I believe. And it spoke about the standing of people of Afrocentric diaspora and how they were supposed to be looked at in law. So when the realization comes in, people say, well, what does this have to do with anything? It has to do with how you're described and how you're defined by law. Because law enforcement is going to look at you as a black until you fix it, people. See, the Constitution was never installed for the specific purpose to alleviate the burden, so to speak, of the executive authority of the DC private corporation upon people which it wanted to legally define. One of the most important things I want to point out is October 16, 2012, so-called President Barack Obama, who I spoke about in my previous video, was on the Tom Joyner morning show. And Tom Joyner said, hey, this is our first black president. And Obama said, well, I don't call myself the first black president because black has no standing at law. And I said this in my previous video because people didn't understand the concept behind my idealism on the fact that I disagreed with his stance as far as being the so-called president, because he knew the processes, he knew the status, he knew the correction, he knew all of the things that coincided with correcting the legal misinterpretation of people of color. But the thing that people don't realize is that they seen him as what the media, the white Republican or the Caucasian Republican media, called him. So they were lulled to sleep and robbed once again of their nationality for years. And now they're in these present economic circumstances, and then they wonder, like, why am I here? You're here because you failed to adhere to what you should have yesteryear. And I got to get this glare out your people's face. Pardon me. I want to hold it up. Another thing is, the reason why the appellations are so important on forms is because since black has no standing in law, and you're a person who is a melanated being, a melanated living soul, one that comes from the indigenous tribe, they're going to look at you as that. And this is the reason why people that are melanated have a problem with police. They have a problem with credit scores. They have a problem with their appellation in regards to any commercial process, whether it's courts, whether it's housing, it doesn't matter. All of these things are based upon a circumstance of appellation. How you self-identify, which is your personal right. You have a right to self-identify. They can't stop that. And people are under the guise and the belief that they don't have to self-identify. They say that, that's not important. That's not the case. It is what it is. And I'm like, okay, well, you're going to have a hard road and you're going to have a very hard commercial life, because the simple fact of the matter is that you keep calling yourself black. In spite of all these situations, in spite of all these solutions, in spite of all these misgivings, in spite of all this historical ignorance that we have inherited from these organizations and from these movements, the reason why these individuals were killed, slain, murdered, and robbed of their particular status is because they kept calling themselves black, civilly, according to the system of the definition of white. It's the people who are the European or the European descent and those of North Africa. Since we are the first people who are melanated on this terra firma, according to the Latin ideology, we are the first melanated. We are the original Europeans. See what I'm saying? So there were no Europeans in North Africa. We know this. But they tell you black, and go look for some black African tribes. There is no continent on the face of this earth called black. So if there's designations as to where people came from, there is no tribe of people that are considered black. And this is the reason why we have been given such fucking hell in this country in regards to how we are looked at in regards to law. Let me give you another tidbit, right? Check this out. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. What did it just say? It said to ourselves. In the Supreme Court decision of Dred Scott versus Sanford, it said also, if you look in the description section, it lets you know that constitutionally, you were never even to be considered a part of the establishment. For good reason. Because your appellation was never to be construed or intermingled with anything commercially that had to do with what is considered black. There is no place for black people, according to law, black people in the legal system. You have to change your appellation. You have to change your outlook on who you are. See, me, I know that I'm an indigenous American from the Arawak tribe. I know this about myself. And I've been explaining this in so many bits and pieces because I know you can't drop it all on people at one time. And when you say on a form Native American, these are people who have tribal associations, tribal associations. Nothing that has to do with the natives, the so-called natives who get their gratuities and their grants and their benefits from the so-called establishment, or everyone else gets their so-called, rightful recognition from the establishment, except who? People need to understand that there is no such thing as reparations coming to save people of color, such as from the African diaspora. There is from the indigenous diaspora, I should say, more so in an educated tone, because guess what? They would have to make another amendment, which would be the 28th, and then they would have to make a 29th because the 13th is still in effect. The 13th Amendment did not give you the ability to say that you should be a part of the citizenry, and the 14th and the 15th to go in there and then vote, and then go in there and put on the form black. You're still looked at in this law as you have no standing. So you have to realize we've inherited over a century of ignorance. And this is why I'm here today to clear this up. Now, I said this before, and I showed you the picture of these popes worshiping these images, because Nimrod and Semiramis were actually the first deified mortals on the face of this earth. They're of color. They are melanated, I should say, in proper tongue. They're melanated. Now, if these people revere that and they know the truth, how come you don't? How come you don't know the truth about who you are? Because it's been hidden from you. See, a lot of people get on these channels and they mystify you and they play these games. I don't have time to play those games. I'm going to get to it. You know what I'm saying? And this is another reason why I have a problem with certain groups, because certain groups, they dissect this knowledge, but they never go back to the root. The definitive form to really realize and understand from the commercial aspect is to change your appellation, to change it, to do your research. If you need help, please consult me. But to do your research adequately, and to stand in your proper status in law. You have to realize who you are and what you are. You cannot call yourself black. There is no such thing as black power, because there's no power in law according to what is considered black. Now, this is civics intermingled with cultural differences. So some people say, well, what's the best appellation upon the form? I know some people who put white. And like, well, why put white? Because by definition, it's those people who are from Europe or who actually resided in North Africa. And we know by history who the original Europeans really are. And they know that. And that's one of the reasons why I showed you the picture. So there's no confusion. And let me show you again for people who doubt. The original European is not white or Caucasian. They weren't. That's a proven fact. They know the truth. And now people say, so what do you do from here? Where do you go from here? Where do you go from here with in regards to this? Where are you going? You have to change your appellation. You have to change your commercial, so to speak, outlook on how you're looked at. Stop calling yourselves black. Get out of the habit of the B word, and get out of the habit of the N word too. But get out of the habit of the B word. Get out of the habit of the B word for the simple fact it has no standing in law, and that's the reason why anything can happen to you at any time. You see what I'm saying? Until you change this. This is a positive idea now. I'm giving you the truth. Because I know for a fact I did this myself. And I did this myself for good reason, as an example. And I know the continent, so to speak, that we reside on, is Turtle Island, a Mexican, whatever you wish to call it. If you know the truth, then operate in it. Do what must be done. Look at it in its proper context. Let's go further. I wanted to pull this out and to talk about the so-called the Constitution. The Constitution. That's a, Constitution. Let's look at this. All right. Okay. To prove to you that citizenship had nothing to do with you, so to speak, it says slavery abolished, ratified December 6, 1865. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except as a punishment for a crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Congress shall have power to enforce this article by legislation. They gave themselves the power to enforce however they want. But what did it just say? Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment of crime, for crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted. Who is the private prison industry's market built off of? Okay, people, let's get real. Let's go to 14th Amendment. Citizenship rights. Ratified 7/9/1868. Hold on, this might be out of order real quick. Give me a second. And when it says that every person born in the United States or naturalized shall be subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And I'm going to stop there because I don't want to go into that whole equal protection of the laws and all that. Subject, meaning underneath, meaning substatus, meaning under my rule. If you read the Supreme Court's decision and rendered in Dred Scott versus Sanford, it said that people of color, as far as slaves are concerned, who were bought and transported as slaves to this country, shall be only used to serve the economic benefit of Europeans. You see what I'm saying? So this Constitution is nothing more than a documentation that should, in my eyes, is burnt, in my conscience, because it's not really realistic. It's not. It's dead. It's a piece of paper where a bunch of, with 39 Caucasoids came together and said, hey, this is the way it's going to be. But they never really helped you define what it really is, and they hid that from you. And then they gave you a cultural and inferiority complex that you yourself are not supposed to be divine in your character. Now, I showed you a picture of the explanation of that concept. And in the video description, you could also see the definitive and the more appropriate linguistics behind what I'm trying to convey. You see what I'm saying? So people, until you change your status as far as your appellation is concerned, and you send it to the proper entities, and you keep saying black on your applications and your housing, you're going to be looked at as that because they turn that into these creditors, these entities. And you're not going to receive any so-called benefit, so to speak, for yourself of what society really is. So here's the transformation, people. Here it is. Make sure this is on straight. You know what I'm saying? See, that was just awesome. I'm a whole new person. That was awesome. And yes, I know who I am. I know what I am. And I don't consider myself as black. I consider myself as an indigenous American. Indigenous. I just reside here, but I know who I am. And now you kind of get the picture behind what this whole status concept is. Because, as you can see, when you change your appearance and your appellation, things change for you. Be aware of that, people. Be very aware. Take care. And agents, you know what it is.